today I had something of a spare Saturday. And when I have a spare Saturday, there's only two things that I really like to do. One is to go to the pub, of course, and the other is to visit an historic ruin or a castle. Today, the weather looks good for the first time in a couple of months, so I thought I would combine my two interests into one. So I'm on the way to beautiful, remarkable, unrivaled Cambridge. Now, Cambridge has a storied history, stretching back to the Iron Age at least, with a very notable Roman settlement also established here around 70 AD. The Britons, Anglo-Saxons and Danes also left their mark in this part of the world. But it is the late medieval I am interested in today, in particular 15th century Cambridge. Now, it was on the Passion Sunday, 1441, that Henry VI, the 19-year-old King of England, he laid the foundation stone for what he called the College Royal of Our Lady and St Nicholas. The pious Henry was determined to see this project through, and so he gave the order for a compulsory purchase to take place, allowing him to clear shops, houses, lanes and churches that stood in the path of his great project. What the king wants, the king gets, perhaps. It was in July 1446 that he was able to come and lay the foundation stone for the chapel you can see behind me. But Henry would not live to see the completion of his project. You see, the Wars of the Roses were on their way, and Henry could not retain his crown. He may have been a devout and pious king, but he was not suited to kingship. His political naivety, his woeful leadership, his inability to read the room, and, of course, the thundering ambitions of others, all led to his being removed from his throne in 1461, after 39 years. Now, 10 years later, he did briefly come back to the throne, but in 1471, the House of York under Edward IV swept back to power. Henry was removed for the second time from his throne and then cruelly murdered in the Tower of London in May 1471. So he never got to see his project reach completion. Now, Edward IV doesn't seem to have been too fussed about this college, but the man who would ultimately succeed him, his brother Richard III, ordered the building work to recommence. But he too failed to live long enough to witness the construction completed. It was Richard's successor, Henry VII, who now inherited this building site, and he answered the college's petition to save the building from ruin. And for good reason. Henry was the half-nephew of Henry VI, and this presented an ideal opportunity for the first Tudor monarch to be closely associated with the uncle he hoped to canonise as a saint. Now, in April 1506, Henry VII came to Cambridge for the celebration of the St George's Day Parade. He was accompanied by his mother, Margaret Beaufort. We know that he stayed in the college. And on St George's Day, he visited this site in procession as part of the parade celebrations. He notably heard Mass here as well. He must have looked around and noticed what a building site this still was, because he then begins to give the orders, and more importantly the money, to see this chapel completed. No longer did he want this to be a half-finished building site that was once started by his half-uncle Henry VI. He wanted to see it completed, and he does give plenty of money to see that through. We have the chest still inside this church that once bore copious amounts of gold for this to happen. 2 weeks before Henry dies in 1509, he also has his will updated to provide another grand payment for this church. But of course, like Henry VI, like Edward IV, like Richard III, Henry VII does not live to see King's College Chapel completed. That would happen in 1515, during the reign of Henry VIII, the sixth king to preside over this building. Now, there's no question that this is one of the most remarkable buildings we have. I'm pleased to say that Henry VI, as the founder, is remembered year to day. Every year there is a Founders' Day feast that takes place to remember the man who may have been a failure as King of England, but he most certainly did have a vision for this in Cambridge. Now, because King's College was completed in distinct phases between the 1440s and the 1510s, you can actually tell this in the brickwork. It's different colours as you go up the building. And that's because, well, they ran out of stone. Now, on the outside, of course, you still have the ubiquitous Tudor symbols, the crowned Tudor rose, the crowned Beaufort portcullis. But this is a building that owes its legacy to not just the Tudors, but the Lancastrians and the Yorkists. Walking through the sturdy oak door is like stepping back in time. Inside, the fan-vaulted ceiling is surreal to behold, the largest of its kind in the world, an architectural masterpiece that is truly awe-inspiring 500 years later. No amount of hyperbole can overstate just how bewildering this roof is to the first or even 10th time visitor. But also there are 26 windows dotted around King's College, each of which mainly have 16th century early Tudor glass. Immediately noticeable are the series of Henry VII's coat of arms, branded all around the chapel in the form of some very intricate and interesting stonework. Beaufort portcullises and Tudor roses are of course not in short number either. Writing during Tudor times, John Leland wrote that this was the most beautiful building in all the world. Do you know what? I think he was right. Now, despite its Lancastrian and Yorkist connections, one can't help but leave King's College with the impression that this was one person's building and one person's alone. And that was the first Tudor king.
This leads us to ask,
why are there so many of Henry VII's arms on this college? Well, the answer lies in legitimacy. We all know that Henry VII was a usurper. He came to the crown as merely the great grandson of Edward III. And therefore, it could be said that no king of England had ever ascended the English throne born so far away from the throne itself. And I don't just mean because he was born in Pembroke. So Henry had a problem when he becomes king. He has usurped the throne of England. He has killed Richard III. But many people might not think that he should be King of England. So Henry embarks on a propaganda campaign, shall we say.
he looks to project his dynastic legitimacy by literally stamping his kingdom. At King's College, Henry's coat of arms is everywhere. It prominently features his principal badge, the Red Dragon of Cadwallader, the Welsh dragon. Now, this is an interesting one, because the message that Henry is sending with his dragon is that he's not just descended from the Plantagenets through his mother, Margaret Beaufort, but from the revered kings that once reigned over ancient Britain before the advent of the Saxons, Normans, and Plantagenets. Far from his royal pedigree being tenuous, it is in fact more prestigious than those he supplanted when he won the crown at Bosworth. At least that's the message that Henry wants spread. It's a masterful exercise in dynastic propaganda that he reinforces through architectural wonders like this at King's.
You see, propaganda can be used to project a message, and the message can be used to obtain and retain power. And that's exactly what Henry is doing. That's why you see Henry VII's coat of arms everywhere in King's College. You know, he's also created a direct link to Henry VI, his half-uncle, the founder of this college. So people are aware that though it seems that Henry VII doesn't have the best claims to the English throne, he is linking himself directly to a previous king. He's linking himself directly to the House of Lancaster and beyond. He's a wise man, was Henry VII.
And there's no doubt such messaging helped him succeed as king. He reigned for 24 years. He overcame every plot and conspiracy hatched to unseat him. He closed the Wars of the Roses, and he oversaw the first successful transferal of power from father to son in 87 years. Put some respect on his name, as the kids would say.
Now, of course, the Henrys couldn't have all the fun, could they? And of course, the Queens decided that they needed to get in on this educational flowering that was taking place here in Cambridge. In 1448, Margaret of Anjou, the Queen of the House of Lancaster, she founded or refounded a college here that was named Queen's College. In 1465, that same college was refounded by Elizabeth Woodville, the Queen of the House of York. Another Yorkist queen would also be a benefactress of this college, Anne Neville, the wife and queen of Richard III. When Henry VII becomes king, he takes away the endowments for this, but that church is still remembered today as Queen's College. But it is in fact another particular college that I am interested in today. And this was refounded in the year 1505, but it was not refounded by a Queen of England, although perhaps there is an argument that she thought of herself as a queen. That is, of course, Margaret Regina, Margaret Beaufort. Now, despite what her reputation seems to be like in the modern day, thank you, Facebook, Margaret Beaufort was highly thought of during her day.
She was a champion of learning, who bequeathed an extraordinary educational legacy, leveraging her privileged position as a wealthy mother of a king to promote humanist learning, to advance religious scholarship, to sponsor the cultural arts, to provide opportunities for others. Margaret was far-sighted and influential, a true philanthropist.
In 1505, she refounded this particular college, Christ College, and you can feel her presence everywhere today.
Her arms and badges liberally adorn the walls throughout the college grounds. The Beaufort Yale, a mythical beast holding the family coat of arms. The formidable Beaufort portcullis, the Red Rose of Lancaster.
We of course have plenty of imagery dedicated to her son, Henry VII. We have the Red Dragon of Cadwallader, the Welsh Dragon. We also have the Richmond Greyhound, both symbols and emblems of Henry VII, year in the college his mother founded. Even in the main dining hall, where the students still have their breakfast and their lunches, we can see Lady Margaret overlooking the students, making sure that they're doing their studies. And of course, we have the great lady herself, not there, in stained glass. But if there's one remarkable bit of architecture that anyone needs to see when it comes to Cambridge, to Margaret Beaufort, just to Britain in general, it's the great gatehouse that adorns this beautiful college. Don't believe me? Check this out.
Again, elaborately carved Tudor and Beaufort imagery is everywhere, vividly repainted to appear as it did 500 years ago. There are even a collection of little daisies, which in French are known as the Marguerite, a play on Margaret's name. The centrepiece is a statue of the great woman herself. This is as grand a gatehouse as you will ever come across, and a fitting testament to its redoubtable and resilient foundress.
It wasn't just Christ College that Margaret was involved in, however. From its inception, she planned another college year at St John's, and it was something that she worked on closely together with her confessor, John Fisher, the future saint of the Catholic Church. And just like at Christ College, we have a remarkable gatehouse that is completely laden in Beaufort, Tudor and Lancastrian imagery. Let's go take a closer look. So let's just consider for a moment what is taking place on this facade. What imagery is being shown? The archway is covered in small symbols, including the Beaufort portcullis. We have the Tudor rose front and centre beneath the Beaufort coat of arms. Those are the Beaufort arms. They are the English royal arms set within a border of blue and white beneath the crown, of course, supported by the Beaufort badge of the Yale. On either side, we have more crowned roses and, of course, the portcullis. We keep on going up. We have loads of daisies, marguerites, which is, of course, a pun based on Lady Margaret's name. More Lancastrian red roses, Beaufort portcullises, and then we have a statue. Now, many people think this is a statue of Margaret herself, just like over at Christ College, but it's not. It's actually of a saint whose name I've forgotten, which is very bad of me, but I can't remember everything. And if we keep on going up on the gatehouse, look at the exquisite, splendid brickwork, including that black pattern, very much a feature of the early Tudor period. and then we have some battlements, and of course the tower. What a remarkable feature this is, funded by Margaret herself for the promotion of education, the arts, religious learning. This is the gatehouse of Trinity College, by the way, which I just happened to be walking past. It's notable for, in the centre, it has a large statue of Henry VIII. But we're not interested in him today. Anyway, he was a... and that's exactly what he was.
Ah, punting. No chance am I getting on that water. But this today was just a flavour of Cambridge, a city laden with 15th century and early Tudor treasures, and a deeply abiding connection with the remarkable Lady Margaret Beaufort, who is still rightfully celebrated and cherished in these parts. If you ever get the opportunity to visit, I strongly suggest you do. Until next time.